Like many of our viewers, I had never heard of Dallara, let alone the Dallara Stradale, and to find out that they have been in F1 racing since the 60s.
Well, Dallara's been around for quite a while, and this car has been around, the concept has been around for quite a while as well. As a matter of fact, I think this is like thought of like 6 years ago.
Yeah, like 2015, I think you said he started.
And the last time that, 6 years passed and I got a phone call and said something was ready, I thought I was getting a 5-year-old. The car is... It's designed, it's got a Lotus concept to it, whereas it's a super light, decent amount of horsepower. I like the styling. I'm not totally in love with the styling, but I get why it's shaped the way it is.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the front of the car, I mean, you can almost see a Panos. You remember the Panos RA cars? Yeah. You see that nose, kind of the way it's shaped. There's this real similarity to it. And I got a chance to race with the Panos. Me and Patrick Dempsey did some racing around in that series a little bit. Good fun car to drive, good handling car. So more than likely, they took some of that shapes from the front end and said, hey, this is a good front end shape for decent downforce. And it must work.
Decent downforce.
Yeah.
Sheesh, you see how much downforce this thing has?
And I don't understand how it's pulling that kind of downforce, because if you look at this car visually, it doesn't look like a high downforce car.
No, it looks slippery, but I saw like 1,700 pounds of downforce.
1,800 pounds of downforce, and you visually look at it, you would think it was like a 700-800 pound downforce car. So the shape works, but it is Dallara. I mean, so they probably have stuff going on underneath that we don't know about.
Yeah. And then the other thing, too, is that Dallara had their hands in like the Alfa Romeo 8C, the KTM Crossbow, even the Bugatti's Chiron.
I didn't know that.
And even dating back to like Ferrari and Lamborghini Miura, he had his hand in that, too. So, I mean, there's a lot of technology. This isn't just, hey, I want to build a car, let's build it. This is technology and research over many, many decades.
Hey, and this thing isn't cheap either. By the time you add windows and doors to it, I mean, this thing's closing in on $250,000.
Yeah, all carbon fiber, though. All carbon fiber monocoque body. So, I mean, everything's fixed to the floor. And it's inline 4. Single turbo 2.3 EcoBoost.
They took the engine out of the Focus RS. It's basically a derivative of that engine, and I think they even used the same transmission and put it in this car.
There's two that are available.
I noticed that they had a manual and an automatic, and I'm not sure why you'd put an automatic in this. Our whiskey girl was in Monaco recently, and she saw this car and said, "Oh, I love this car. This thing is just amazing." She absolutely loved it. So she would probably want an automatic, because then, women, they can put makeup on while they're driving down the road and not have to worry about shifting.
Well, since we're talking about that, another thing that I don't know if it would be too friendly for women is no doors. You literally have to hike your leg up over the side of it.
But you know what? This car is one of those cars that, honestly, when I see the roof on it, it looks like a kit car, and I hate to say that out loud, but I don't like the roof on this. This car is designed to be an open cockpit car.
Yeah, totally. I totally see that, because, I mean, you're not going to be able to store that anywhere either, so even if you wanted to take it off.
No, as a matter of fact, our whiskey girl was staying at the Hotel de Paris, and she took a photo of this thing outside, and you can see that there's no roof on it. They got umbrellas hanging around on the roof of the car. It's raining outside. But they really designed it as a proper race car or proper performance car. I still struggle with the price. But at the same time, we don't know how fast this thing really is, because it does create a tremendous amount of downforce. It's got almost 400 horsepower. So, I mean, as far as power-wise goes, that's amazing for a under 1-ton vehicle.
Well, this is like one of the first times I think at least me personally, have seen the fact that the downforce is almost equal to the weight of the car.
And as a result of that, this thing is said to pull almost 2 Gs on a skid pad. And I'll tell you what, I'll drink to that.
Cue the whiskey girl.
So what I also thought was different is that when Z had sent you those pictures of this car, I saw a windshield on it, and I got all excited because all the ones that I had seen up into this were the Barchettas that had no windshield or a roof.
And I wouldn't want a windshield on it. I mean, I saw the one that she saw, and I liked it, but honestly, this car is you're hardcore if you buy this car. You're not a poser. You're buying this car because you know how to drive a car and you want to be aggressive with one. Because that's what I love about this car, is this car brings back everything that Lotus ever did. They said, we need a light car, which this thing's crazy light. 1,885 pound dry weight. Oh my goodness, that's super light. And with similar downforce. And I love these guys. Brembo steel brakes. I love steel brakes. As a road course racer, if you race around, and I've raced around on carbon brakes and I've raced around on steel brakes, I love steel brakes. I love the feel of steel brakes. I love the controllability of steel brakes. And I love the price of steel brakes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just insane cheap. I mean,
carbons are available on this, though.
They are, I know. And that's cool, don't get me wrong. Oh, I got carbon brakes on there. But honestly, if you're racing something, I would much rather have steel brakes. I enjoy the feel of them.
The other thing neat about this, speaking of just like track and using it for the track, is a lot of road tests that have been going on in this car. The drivers have been saying that, you know, there's so much potential in this car that I don't even think I could reach it. And it's more like, you know, driver focused. There has to be a professional driver.
This is what I love about Dallara doing this, is that Dallara spent the time with this car because it's got a similar amount of downforce as it does weight. This thing's going to pull 2 lateral Gs, which is a really crazy number. And so they spent the time to make sure that this thing has oil pressure and fuel pressure all the time, pulling 2 lateral Gs. And that's a pretty tough thing to do.
Sure.
Because, you know, like a lot of our cars, like the Ferraris and stuff, and race cars and stuff, we'll always run dry sump systems so we can always have oil. But fuel's tough because you start pulling 2 lateral Gs, and that fuel's going to go away from where the sump is. So they spent the time to really dial the car in so that it's actually a usable track car. So, I mean, that's a thing that I do like about that. The thing that I don't like about it is that I don't know, and I know it's Dallara, so they probably have it figured out. But if the thing makes 1,800 pounds of downforce, but the wing adds 1,000 pounds, that leaves 800 pounds for the nose. So is this thing going to understeer? You see what I'm saying?
Well, they did talk about the front of it and what they referred to as the elephant foot that was coming off of, like, right behind the rear tire. And that was supposed to be another air channel or duct, if you will, that was supposed to help with the downforce. So they're not just getting it from the nose, but also other areas, like you had mentioned, probably underneath, as well as the sides.
Pushing it around a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 6-speed manual transmission. I love that. I love a manual box. Oh my God, I'm just dying for that. I mean, there's so many people that are giving up on the manual transmission because the DCT is faster. I know a dual clutch is faster.
Yeah, but I don't think this one is.
And I like the manual box. I enjoy rowing a car around. We talked about that before. You know, somebody wants to have a good time. Man, grab an old Boss 429 Mustang with a stick and grab the boys and hit the road.
Firebird.
Yeah, oh yeah, but I mean, just blast around with the stick, just going through the gears. It's such a good time. I mean, it's the driving experience that you buy this car for, and that's exactly what this is. Do you hear an alarm going off? Well, obviously, this guy probably doesn't know a whole lot about his car if he's pulling into a Jiffy Lube with this Tesla. And that's what I'm saying, is that as cars get more and more complex, people know less and less about them. But this car, the neat thing about this car is that it's not designed for the average guy. I mean, this thing has track mode on the dash, you know, so you've got all that tracking, and it's got navigation, which I'm married, so I really don't need navigation. I have a wife who tells me where to go. She always knows the best way to go, the best way to get there, and I don't.
And you listen.
Well, that's why I'm still married, right? This car, it's got all that stuff. It's got a button that you push that drops it almost an inch. So it's got a real track mode.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really awesome because it doesn't look like it sits very far off the ground anyways.
Yeah,
so you drop that
surprising.
extra 0.8 of an inch or whatever. So it's going to make it an even better car. And that's what I like about this car, is that if you look at it from all the angles, they're not, I mean, it's not a real attractive car.
I think it is.
I know,
I think they did a great job.
People that have already said, oh my God, this is the greatest looking car ever. I don't find it particularly attractive with the roof on it, but I do like it as an open car, and I think it would be cooler if it had a bigger splitter in the front. You know, just something a little more aggressive to balance the spoiler in the rear.
I'm sure the team at Dallara probably designed something for you when you order it.
This car is one of those cars that there's more to it than meets the eye. I mean, it looks like a small little car, but it packs a punch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a whole lot to this car. And I don't think that if you've ever driven a car, most guys in a performance car that'll pull a lateral G, that's a pretty hard feel when you got the whole weight of your body on you. This thing will pull 2 Gs, and I'll tell you what,
I'll shift your face.
Yeah, I had a chance. A lot of my road race cars, they'll pull like a G and a quarter, maybe some spikes to like a G and a half, maybe a G6, but I got in an open wheel car, an open prototype car with tons of downforce and all that stuff, and that thing would pull like 3 Gs around the corner. And it was ungodly painful. And I don't know how people do that consistently, but this is pulling 2 Gs. And when you go from 1 1/4 Gs to 1 3/4 Gs, you can feel your spine. So I can't imagine adding that extra quarter. I mean, I think that this car is going to be beyond the capability of most drivers.
And I was watching some videos with Mr. Dallara himself, and I'm probably not covering all the different racing, but Formula 3 racing, IndyCar, GP2, GP3, Formula E. And they not only said about aerodynamics that they're designing these cars for, but also safety. And he showed a race where one of the cars, the chassis they had designed, this car shot off, it looked like 100 miles an hour plus, into the stands of one of the GP races, and they survived. And it was all a testament of all the testing that they've done, the safety regulations. So this car is not only built for that, but it's also built for safety.
Well, these guys, Dallara, they build for the big three, and I'm not talking Dodge and Chevy and Ford. They build for Ferrari, Lamborghini, and McLaren.
Yeah.
These guys are serious. I don't think that you're going to find anyone more skilled at manufacturing something that's going to survive and work than these guys.
Yeah, I'm glad I got my sights on them now, because I was definitely missing this in my life.
Yeah, you definitely missed out not knowing about Dallara, but Tony's more into street performance cars. I'm into race cars, so I knew about Dallara for years. I do love the fact of this thing that it's got a manual steering box, because if you've ever driven the Lotus Esprits, oh man, I own a couple of those, and I really loved them because you could feel the front tires. I mean, you could just feel everything about it, and that's what he did. He was smart enough to use a manual box so that you could really feel the car. So hats off to him. It's time to toast or roast this thing. I hear a squealing noise. Toast or roast.
So talking about styling, I do like it, especially seeing it in those pictures that Z had seen in that clear green carbon fiber. Oh, it looks so good. I like how the seats are bolted to the front, or the monocoque. It's all carbon fiber.
The steering wheel comes to you, and the pedals come to you. Genius.
Well, we're seeing that a lot more and more now, which is really neat.
Which makes sense, because it keeps the weight where it should be in the car.
Right, and you're not moving up or back.
It makes good sense, right?
So I really like the design of it. I think it looks neat. I think obviously they have the two-door version that you can get, which is the Berlinetta, but I do like the Stradale, which we're discussing. So, I mean, I gave this as far as a styling because to me it still has, and they're probably going to kill me for this, I still love it, a little bit of kit car-ness to it. And maybe just because it's new, just a little bit.
I agree with that. I'm dying to hear your number, though.
I gave it a 59.
Oh, wow, I'm right there with you. I was really worried I was going to be off in left field, because I like it better than the Valkyrie, which you know I'm not a huge fan of the Valkyrie, but I don't love it because I still do see the same thing that you do. Your kit car, I gave it a 57.
Okay,
so we're right there. As far as in performance goes, remember now, it's still a under 400 horsepower car, and I get that it's really light. You almost want to prorate the performance, because remember now, if you were a road course racer, this performance number would be really high on slower tracks like Mid-Ohio, or just American tracks that have a lot of turns and things in them. But like at Daytona, it would get killed because the top speed, I hate to say it, is only 176 miles an hour. It's probably similar in line with if you average what the new Corvette is, the C8 Corvette, the 2020 version. So I gave it a 45 in performance.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't too far off with that, because that did ding me a little bit as far as the performance, as far as just being a smaller motor in it. They could totally do a V6 twin turbo in this, and it'd be unreal. But I get it as far as weight saving, so I actually gave it a 56.
Okay, so quite a bit higher than me, but I get where you're coming from.
More the aerodynamics version of it.
Yeah, exactly. If you looked at it as far as a road course, this thing would stomp so many things on a road course. But I rated it like a street car, whereas if you wanted to race somebody stoplight to stoplight, you do pretty good. But if somebody took you on the half mile, they'd get stomped, absolutely. Yeah. Well, either way, I'm still giving it a toast. Congratulations, Dallara. You got one from us. Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And you know what they say, if you have an opinion that's different than ours, keep it to yourself.